Hello, welcome to the Love Well by Doing Good podcast. And today I have my really special guest, Roy Wooten, here
Oh
from
man,
Houston.
I'm so glad to be here, Sandy. It's good to be with you.
Good to be with you. So, I want to tell the audience a little bit about you. This is just a little bit because I think there's probably a whole lot more that we're going to talk about today. But Roy, right now, serves as the executive director of the Crucible Project, bringing decades of experience in counseling, ministry, coaching, and leadership. Roy is passionate about personal transformation, relational health, and spiritual growth. He earned both his Bachelor of Science and Master of Science degrees in clinical and counseling psychology from Abilene Christian University and received an honorary doctorate from Grace Global Seminary in 2017 in recognition of his work in Christian relationships and ministry. Throughout his career, Roy has served as a pastor, ministry executive, counselor, and speaker, helping thousands of individuals and couples through transformational retreats, seminars, and coaching experiences. And he's the author of Unstuck: 7 Steps to Break Free and Live Courageously, as well as co-author of The Secret to Lifetime Love and creator of the Life Together Forever couples retreats alongside his wife, Deborah. We have to have her on the podcast one of these
Oh
days.
yeah.
Roy began serving with the Crucible Project in 2009, following his own life-changing retreat experience, and was appointed executive director in 2019. He and Deborah have been married since 1988, woohoo, and reside in San Antonio, Texas, and are passionate about strengthening families and helping people live authentically, courageously, and with grace. And welcome, Roy. I am so excited that you said yes to the Love Well
Yeah.
by podcast, because when I think about people loving well by doing good, your picture is on that list of
Uh,
people.
thank
And
you. Thank you. Thank you.
um, so just start off, I would like to go back as early as you want to go back in your life and tell me about maybe one of the first memories, at least, when you understood or when you began to realize that you could live a certain way, you could live a different way, maybe than others, in a way that was really abundant and authentically abundant. So I'd just like to hear what you have to say to that question.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I'm thinking back to I went to a Christian elementary school, a wonderful donor at the church where we worshiped paid for my fees, my tuition, kind of like a second mom to me. And um, frequently other children, sometimes teachers or parents would just tell me their story. So I was the guy that people came to when something was going on. I don't know what it was about me that kind of drew them to me, but that for sure was the way it was. And so I think I knew early on that um, I wanted to help people. Simultaneously, um, in almost every room, I ended up being the leader of the room in a short period of time. Not through anything aspirational, but it just happened. Like people just, yielded and wanted to hear my thoughts or asked me to lead. And I really felt comfortable. We had a chapel service every day at the school. And I think the school personnel enjoyed seeing me up front. I had a engaging way with the students and whoever we had as a guest, and so I was frequently up there on stage in that kind of way. And I didn't see them as necessarily gifts, leadership, or being someone that was full of caring and mercy for whatever someone was going through. It was just the way that I was. And it wasn't really until I went off to college and one of the guidance counselors asked me, "What kind of lifestyle do you want to have whenever you get out of college?" And I had never really thought of that. Like that was the first time I I think I thought that it just happened to you, like you fell into it, whatever it was, and that we could actually make choices that would drive abundance.
Mm.
I was abundantly wealthy early in life and throughout my life in relationships, but and having the skills and abilities to have mercy in my soul, to have compassion was just natural. So the question was, how do you monetize that? I mean, how does that turn into some kind of resource? Um, I was reading Norman Vincent Peale and those guy kind of leaders, and one of the things that I frequently heard was, if you can help enough people get what they want, or you can help enough people achieve their goals, then you'll be able to achieve your goals. So I landed in psychology instead of Bible. I was going the pastor route. I've preached since I was a teen, in different churches. So uh, I went that route for a way to perhaps someday have an abundant way of thinking um, and help people. I did a few years at a psych hospital as associate clinical psychologist, and I knew that I did not want to work in um, public mental health. That was not the avenue that was going to feed my soul. And so, what else could I do? I've run programs and services. I've um, helped develop things from the ground up, scratched an entrepreneurial itch about 20 years ago. And that's why you had me in Houston. It was in Houston that I did that, and took something from an idea sitting around in a room to, a launch of a business with a brand, developing brand trust, and growing it. We started with 2 part-time counselors, and I think when I left, we were somewhere around 36 counselors in 7 locations in the Houston area. So really, really enjoyed that part. But I think I'm still rich in relationships, and that's the most important thing to me.
Mhm.
And along the way, I've always been blessed to receive more blessings from God than I actually needed.
Hmm.
And that attitude of gratitude, I think, has been helpful for me when uh, when things have tightened up, when there's been a challenge financially. Both kids in college at the same time, for instance, or you know, that God's always given us more than we actually need,
Hmm.
and we just need to trust Him through this, and things will happen. So yeah, that was a lot in that answer, but
No,
that's where my
I
mind went with it.
that's fascinating because you and I kind of know each other, but I part of why I love doing podcasts is just getting to know people, at a deeper level, people that I respect and admire and love. And um, what was your home like growing up that you already had that kind of attitude? Was there an influence from a parent or someone close to you that even helped you start out? I mean, like it's unusual for, I think, someone as young as it sounds like you were to be leading or just even have this idea of helping people. That's not real common among children, I think, who are young, maybe a little bit, but it sounds like you got a lot of it. So, was there an influence in your family?
Yeah, and it really comes from a painful place. I grew up in a home that was um, very caring and nurturing up until about age 5, and my mother had her first psychotic break, and things really changed in the home that I grew up in, and went from uh, loving and caring and nurturing to dangerous. And my brother and I would have, as mom would have bouts with her mental illness. We went through a lot. We suffered during those times. When mom came back from her first psychotic break, she told dad and me and my little brother that we had to look normal, that we needed to be, that this was a secret that we shouldn't ever tell anyone. And that really drove, Sandy, that really drove me to doing my best in every aspect of my life, academically, athletically, when there were things at church to do really well there. And I think the opportunity to look normal was a unwritten job description for me to just show everybody how normal we are by being the best. So it came from a painful place, but it did serve me well in life, and it certainly has served me well in my leadership. When I got to be in my 30s and 40s, that drive really helped my career, but it also was something that was exhausting.
Mhm.
Like the unwritten message was, you've got to perform and achieve to get love. And uh, a person who strives like that can end up in really dark places themselves.
Mhm.
So, uh, it was influenced also by a youth pastor whenever I was in high school, who would always pray, "Lord, wear us out in your service." So it was very no self care, just like go go go, take to win win win, achieve achieve achieve, and yeah, I was hitting the wall in my 30s and 40s around looking good on the outside with success and achievement, etc., but on the inside really feeling exhausted from it all.
Mhm. Boy, I can relate. I grew up with five siblings and two parents who were both alcoholics, and I was 6 years older than my next sibling, so ended up caring for them. Kind of the same thing, like
Mm,
be the A student and be the as popular as you can be and achieve everything and do everything. And,
yeah.
I think even my church setting was somewhat like that. Now, what's amazing about that, when I talk to lots of entrepreneurs, this is very common
Mm,
among high achieving people, is that a lot of us come out of like a painful experience where we want to feel good about ourselves. We want to feel worthy. We want to feel acceptable. And I think for those of you listening, not all my audience is kind of diverse, and so, but there is a verse in the Bible that I love, whether you're a Christ follower or not, says all things work together for good
mhm,
to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. But I always think about the all things, and like I
mm,
had disappointment, and we have, and I also think, okay, this is one of the things. Here's
yeah.
one of the all things. So it'll be interesting to see God, like, what do you do with this thing that I'm, in pain about, or I'm upset about, or disappointed? Like, it'll be interesting to see. Now, for a long time, I didn't think that way. So I was just disappointed or sad or depressed.
Right.
And as I've gotten older, but to be able to look and say, okay, you do say all things, like all the great things that fill us with joy and all the things that are such a struggle. And so if I have that perspective, what can happen, right? And the transition,
Mhm.
for me at least, from disappointment to something more hopeful is at least shorter than it would have been. But wow, that's amazing, and really set the stage, it sounds like, for even the career you went into, right?
It sure did. Like, I think part of me going into clinical and counseling was looking in some way subconsciously for answers for my mom, right? Trying to understand this horrible thing of mental illness. The saying is, if a family member has a mental illness, then mental illness has the family, and that's certainly true with the really biologically driven uh, disorders like psychosis and borderline. And I'm thankful that I was able to understand better the victim that she was around mental illness. The that um, there wasn't purposefulness around her. She didn't cause it to happen, et cetera. And yet also um, trying to help as many people as I could out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting across from um, children and teens who had similar experiences in their home, was a way to kind of take care of the little boy that was in me
Mhm.
for a good chunk of my career as I ran children's homes and treatment centers for adolescents. Um, yeah, I think it was formative for me to choose the profession that I did, and what I believe that I'm built for is primarily around bringing reconciliation in relationships that are broken, that are damaged.
Mhm.
Um, Back to your point, this idea that suffering is something that we don't want to touch, that we want to stay away from. When life, if you're alive, you're going to suffer somewhere. You're going to have painful moments. It's not, no one gets a pass in this world. And it's what we do with that suffering or in our suffering that can propel us or damage us,
Mhm.
in the future. And one of the gifts that I think God gave me unintentionally from the bad experiences I had growing up and the suffering that I had was an ability to sit with people who are in their darkest moments and just be comfortable with it,
Mhm.
right? And to have a radar for it. So um, whenever whenever I'm the other day I was eating at a restaurant, we walked out into outside the restaurant, and there was a guy, just there was something about his facial expression. I just said, "Hey man, are you okay?" And we ended up having a 5-minute conversation that he really needed a little bit of support, a word of encouragement, if that makes sense. So
Mm.
uh, having a radar for people's pain and then feeling comfortable in it with them is a gift that I have from my experiences.
Mhm. Were you always interested in like your own personal growth? I mean, did this experience drive you even before college to, or even in your life, I guess I really should just say in your life to continue explore your own growth? I mean, was it a catalyst for that? I know for me it was, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think I had it in my mind around trying to find answers for my mom. But
Mhm.
yes, I was 18 and away from home, living in the dorm, playing football at Abilene Christian, and I went over to the counseling office and signed up. I was like, help me understand me and this. Um, I I was able to work out over a couple of years, and that wasn't every week, but some things through therapy that were very helpful. But it wasn't until um, uh, my brother-in-law called and said, "Hey, they're doing something really incredible with men to wake them up at the Crucible project." That I really took a deeper dive in learning more about me, discovering what underneath things are really driving me. And I drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, I'm kind of like the hair club president for men. I was a client first, and then
Hmm.
uh, I went through their incredible 2-year transformation program and was volunteering all the time. And it was the best thing I ever did for my leadership, is the best thing that I've done for my relationship with my wife and kids and friends. And it's still impacting me all these years later.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, the question I just asked you and how I was so hungry my whole life, like you, to find answers and to be better and to feel better also.
Mm.
Through the pain, through all the stuff, all the choices I even made that brought it. And I remember Tom and I, Tom, who you've met, my great
Hello.
husband, by
Yeah.
the said hi. Said say hi to Roy. Um, we went to a Brian Clemmer conference. I don't know if you remember Brian Clemmer. He was a Christ follower. He's passed away, but he gosh, this was how long ago? 25 years ago, 24, 25 years ago. They still do these mastery kinds of
Mm,
events. And I remember we had an exercise. We were to take a piece of paper and on one hand write down kind of our story, details of our story. And then we told it to the person that we were with. And I think we had to, like, if we were couples, we had to find somebody else, right? Not our spouse or,
mm,
right? Then we came back and we drew a line, and on the other half of the paper, we took the same details, but we were challenged to choose a different perspective in telling the story.
mm. Wow.
And we were to cross out a line and then write kind of the opposite, or like what came out of it. So
Mm,
all of a sudden, I'd spent all my life, because I was probably like 45 to 50, telling my story a certain way. I'm the oldest, and I had to take care of my parents and my family, kind of this victim story.
yeah.
And all of a sudden, I realized I could tell that story differently. Like you said, like, wow, I learned leadership at a really young age. I learned to care about people at a young, I learned how to take care of, like, there were all these gifts that I realized in my victim story.
Mm,
And I was so grateful because I could still be there, right? I could still be in the victim story rather than to say, wait a minute, all that stuff also gave
mm.
me this,
Right.
which, Crucible then takes that to an even, more incredible level. I did my weekend not with Crucible, but with the Mankind Project, or Women Within, the organization that greatly influenced Crucible.
Hmm.
And before Tom and I got married, I know you've heard this story, but I was in a really, really tough place, just still emotionally. And I wonder if Tom would have married me, or I wonder if our marriage would be as good as it is had he not gone through his weekend and I had not gone through that weekend. And beyond the weekend, continued to do the work in
Hmm.
groups, right? Because we can go on these retreats or weekends and we can have something amazingly catalytic. And then if there's no place to go to be able to continue to live it out, you know,
Right.
then it can fade, or it can, not be as impactful as it could, or certainly not be the kind of thing that can help us develop into the people that we long to be. So,
Right.
forever grateful for the people who have created these kinds of experiences for us. And let's just talk a little bit more about it. Like, why was it? You talked a little bit about why it was important for you. What really attracted you? Like, what was the thing that attracted you most? Was the Crucible Project kind of the first thing like that? Or had you done some other things before that?
Not anything like Crucible. It was brand new to me. This soul work is what they've called it all along. No, I think I was looking for answers in a lot of different areas, not just for myself, but for men in general. It seemed like I would, read this latest pastor's book on what it means to be a Christian man, or this psychologist's latest book on men's issues, or whatever. I was searching for something, uh, partially within me, around my own stuff, but really how I I was I was seeing men walk around dead, and they'd come in for counseling, for marriage counseling, and she had high energy and wanted the relationship to change, and he was just showing up because he had to. He was like getting drug into therapy, and I mean, it wasn't every couple, but so much unaware of the impact he was having in his relationship, what he was doing unintentionally, that was hurting her so much. And, there wasn't like he wasn't a bad guy. He was just like walking around blind.
Mhm.
And um, and so I'm reading. I'm going to Promise Keepers was really big back then. I would go to Promise Keepers events, and here again, it felt like it was like a mile wide and an inch deep. It really wasn't waking men up, and it was a wonderful experience. Like 20, 50,000 men singing some worship songs together was pretty powerful, but it
Mhm.
changed nothing the next day. right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I signed up primarily because my brother-in-law said they're waking men up. They're doing something different, and I was skeptical. I I was like, rolling my eyes and going, "Oh, we'll see." Uh, and so I went to observe, but somebody on the leadership team called me the week of and said, "Wooten, if you're coming, just to observe, don't come." Said,
Mhm.
"You and God find something to work on, and if you figure that out, let me know." And so I was able to text him the next week. It's like my horrible way of doing self care, which was really nothing, right? My self care was so horrible. I was serving a lot of people, making a difference in the world, taking care of my family financially, and not taking care of myself. And so that's what I went with. And Friday night, God really started working on me on some things that I had worked on in my early college years in the therapy office, that was still having an effect on me all these years later, and that I had not seen before. And Saturday, we had this incredible experience to, how they say, wrestle with God around those things. And there were a couple of things that happened. One was that I realized that I'm loved and lovable just the way I am, and I don't need to achieve anything to to get that love. So that was a huge win. But also, I had known and taught and preached that, from the neck up, that I was going to heaven, that I
Mhm.
was saved, that I was, uh, had eternity with God, but I never really believed it in my cell, in my heart, and in the cell, every cell in my body. And that
Why?
changed.
Why do you think you didn't believe it?
I think I was struggling to forgive myself. I was struggling to receive grace, if that makes sense. So there was like this block of, I don't deserve it, or I don't, I've got to earn it. I've got
Mhm.
to, that just went away. It went away. Like I knew in every cell of my being, and I've known since, I'm loved by God,
Mhm.
and I get to be with Him forever.
Mhm.
So that's not a doubt in my mind anymore.
Mhm.
And then on Sunday, I sat across from the founder of Crucible, and I said, I want every person I know to, some time in his life, take a chance to, come experience this himself. Now, the
Mhm.
weekend isn't very, it's not very, I was talking about my own salvation, what I
Mhm.
experienced there. It's not a weekend where we're trying to convert people,
Right.
if that
Right.
makes sense. So it's
Mhm.
not a proselytizing
Mhm.
kind of weekend. Um, but that was my experience. A couple of weeks after I got home, my wife told me that she felt like she got the husband she married back. So there was something that had opened up between my head and heart in a way that was like our early years together,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? That the heart was connected to the head. These 18 inches were shorter in some way, and so I knew there was something that had in fact changed within me around my being, not just the way that I think, or my, some people talk about emotional regulation, and or any of those things. It was just an openness and a connection that I hadn't had before in my life, or that I and then I was more aware of the decisions that I was making, either by default or on purpose, and how it was affecting others around me. This idea that I can make agreements with myself and keep them, and I trust myself more. I can make agreements with my wife and keep them, and she trusts me more, etc. And,
Mhm.
and the impact of my decisions on those I lead, and my own self care, etc. So it was such an incredible gift.
Mhm.
I hopped into the 2-year program, experienced 4 other retreats, and sat in a group for a long time with the same guys. And it's the personal flaws are magnified in our leadership, right? And when we're unaware of our personal flaws, a leader is like slinging, slinging wounding things around a lot. So heading back into our personal flaws to discover where they came from and what's going on with us with those makes us a better leader. And I believe my leadership has been better because of the 2-year transformation program at Crucible.
Mm-hmm.